This is the God Complex dashboard. This is going to be a walkthrough of how I use it and how you can use it too. Obviously, there's certain things you can change based on your trading style. So first thing we're going to do, I think the most important, is enable signal alerts. Then in the settings, you can pick the tier that you want alerted for, all the assets, and the time frame. You can enable desktop alerts and Telegram. Telegram's good because it can be sent to the phone, but it does only work if you have the dashboard open on your computer. There'll be instructions on how to set the Telegram alert if you haven't set it already. If you don't know how to do that or you can't figure it out, you can always contact me. So this is the main part of the dashboard. As you see, there's a bunch of different signals, lots of different badges. So we're going to go through all of them. First thing I like to do is select the tier. I'll generally only trade with God and Elite tier, but now that we have added order flow into the mix, I'm also taking great trades if and only if order flow lines up with it, as well as my other trading strategies such as confluent levels and some of the other indicators we have created. So we'll take a look at this first setup. It's a Ripple XRP USD. Tier is God. And you know there's the different kinds of tiers as we saw here. You can click here to see how the tier is determined. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back end to make sure these trade setups are fully filtered. Profit, past, fees, commission, and slippage on average. Have enough win rate, profit factor, and a lot of other things. So I'll go ahead and read this if you like. So this one God trade, if you click on the badge itself, you can see the statistics of the trade. Requirements are filters I've put in the back end for how the trade is selected. We're going to have to go deep into this. A lot of people think the indicator can be used on its own, but that's absolutely not the case. So for example, this one requires a reversal long versus an opposite direction high time frame continuation short, 30-minute time frame via Solana USD. At the time of this trade opening, Sol USD did have a 30-minute continuation short open, so that's why this becomes a valid trade. You can see the number of trades, win rate, profit factor, average P&L, overall, average win, average loss, then TP1 average win and average loss percent along with TP2, and the time. The time can be important because if there's a big difference between the winning time and the losing time, you can determine if a trade's running too long, it might be time to get out, especially if there's a lot of data and it shows wins happen quickly, losses happen after a long period of time. After a certain amount of time, it could be enough information to get out of the trade. Score and bias are here. You can learn more about this in the guide, the long guide, the mastery guide. There's a couple different badges. We have consistent, opposite trade, and high reward. A consistent badge happens when the win rate is high. It doesn't matter as much about profit factor and all that. It's more just high win rate. Now, most of these do have a very good profit factor, average win, all of that. So it's kind of the same. The main thing you need to know is if this badge says high reward, the win rate is low, but the profit factor and average win are very high. So I don't really take high reward setups. I like to take high win rate setups, but that's going to be up to you. Now you have the order flow badge. So you can see the order flow here for Ripple has all these order flow signals from our new order flow signals system. These will slowly go away once the signals time frame is too far away from the trade's time frame. So you know you're only getting relevant order flow signals here. If you want to go through each one, you can. Most of this information will be in the QTX order flow systems guide. and you can get the information there. But as we see, this is a Ripple long with mixed order flow. In my opinion and how I trade, I won't take this trade. Even though it's got amazing statistics, I want to take the best of the best. So I want order flow to match the long. Order flow would have to be bullish here. I'm not going to take this trade. Now, the next most important thing are these opposite trades. This is a pretty new setup that I've created, and this is why not following the indicator is so important. These trades are when the indicator loses very often. So we want to profit on the indicator being correct, which is these trades, consistent, and when the indicator is wrong a lot, opposite. So let's look at TradingView, and I'll go to this specific Ethereum 4-minute short, and we'll take a look at that. So we go to Ethereum 4-minute. This is a trade that's opposite to a Rev long, which you can see there's a reversal here. This is volatility-based SMI. I make sure to have it on all my charts. You can get it separately if you like it or not. So if we were to take this trade, I would not take this trade because it's a short without bearish order flow. As an opposite trade, we're playing against the indicator. I would set my stop. The suggested stop here is 46.80. The target is going to be the stop loss of the indicator. These opposite trades are way more intricate and require a lot more user validation and user ideas to play the trade. So as you see, for this stop loss to target, the RR is 0.63 to 1. Obviously not that great. But these opposite trades have very high win rates. So this one's 77%. With a 77% win rate, you can have a risk reward much below 1 to 1 and still be profitable. That's why I don't block out these low risk reward setups if they're an opposite trade, because it can still be very profitable. So the thing to know with opposite trades, the suggested target being the stop loss of the original trade is just where the data stops collecting. A trade can run much past through this target, and that's why this is up to the user. On normal, consistent, same direction trades, you should play to exactly what the indicator and the dashboard show. You really have to pay attention to the dashboard because there's a slight disconnect between the indicator and the dashboard on some of the take profit 2s. So always make sure the dashboard is your source of truth. The indicator can repaint these TP2 signals for some reason, and that's something we are working on. But this is always the source of truth. It's never wrong. It fires exactly when it needs to. So for a regular trade, you stick to what the dashboard says, stick to your alerts. You'll get alerted for entries, stop loss, TP1 and TP2. For opposite trades, you're going to have to play it a little more on your own. So we figured out how the target's determined, but it's going to be again up to you whether you take profit there or not. If target hits, I'm definitely taking a large amount of profit. In my experience, it does seem like these target levels do work out pretty decent when they are hit, and sometimes they won't hit. Because this trade is playing off of the Rev long, even though it's opposite, it will have its original Rev longs TP1 and TP2. So you will see that TP1 and TP2 do still play, but they are going to be in the direction of the Rev long. All these numbers for average P&L and everything have been flipped for the opposite trade. So the average P&L on this is 0.18%. That means this Rev long averages negative 0.18%, which is what we want in an opposite trade. TP1 and TP2 will still fire. And when they do fire, it's up to the user again if that's going to be their take profit or not. Generally, I do take profits at TP1 and TP2, but I will base it off of order flow at the same time. If order flow is still in the direction of my trade, I may take less profit or may not take profit. So that's when it's up to the user. The suggested stop now is determined by this original trade direction's average win plus a slight buffer. So this ETHUSD Rev Long, the original trade, on average gets to 0.5% with the buffer that I've added. So again, the stop loss is going to have to be determined by you slightly if you don't want to follow that. You can use your levels, indicators, other strategies that you have to determine where your stop loss should be. Direct target rate. This is the percent chance of this Rev Long hitting the actual target before hitting any TP1 or TP2. So directly hitting the target, which doesn't happen as often because TP1 and TP2 either or can hit before that suggested target. This one specifically is 29% chance and 16 minutes. So that's where time comes into play also. If a trade's playing out way too long and the data shows that the winners are always quick and the losers are always long, you can use that to get out. I know that's a lot of information for an opposite trade, but they're not the most straightforward to play. In comparison, so this Ripple trade, as you'll see in my YouTube videos, I post my live trades. So there'll be a video that I'll put out this weekend showing trades from September 12th, and you'll see this Ripple trade. It's similar to this one. It was just a normal continuation long. It was not an opposite trade. It was to play it properly. And you just play it as it's supposed to. Now, generally, I would have taken profit and closed the trade at this TP1 and TP2. But order flow was extremely bullish, so I held it longer, closed some up here, trailed the stop up, and I believe the trade is still open. My stop loss is under this low here. So it's pretty close right there. And at this point, I've taken enough profit. Not a big deal if it gets stopped out. Right now, as we go through this video, you're only going to see trades for crypto because it is a Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so all other markets are closed. But I'll keep checking back on this Ethereum short just so we can see how it plays out. Hopefully we can get a TP1 hit or TP2 hit and we'll see how it works. The suggested target, the suggested stop won't notify you, where the TP1, TP2, and this target hit will notify you with alerts. You will not get a notification from your suggested stop loss. That's why this is a lot more under the user's control. All right, so I think that's most of the dashboard done. We'll move on to the next tab. Top trades. We'll go through it quickly. This is just to know what's worked in the day, the last 7 days, and all time. It's really not the most important. It's more there just to see what's possible. Not all of these trades were verified setups. Some of these trades are just indicator setups, which you're not supposed to take all of them. It's something I can't stress enough. People who use the indicator on its own are going to lose. You have to use verified setups from the dashboard, match it to a setup in the indicator. never use the indicator on its own. Even if it looks like it works, we want to trade with statistics. There's no reason to take a random trade using the indicator unless it shows you good statistics on the dashboard in the verified live signals. Now we'll go to the verified setups tab. So the verified setups, these are all of the setups that pass filters I've put on each of the trades. Right now, the data has collected around 200,000 trades. So that's 200,000 of these signals across 25 to 30 assets, if not more. There's 400 asset and time frame combinations being tracked. So if we sort by win rate, we can see some of these setups have very, very high win rates. But these are low number of trades. That's why the tier is good. A good tier is up and coming. They don't have enough data yet. That's why I don't trade them. It's good to know, good to see, and if some people's risk tolerance is different, or if a good setup lines up with your own analysis and a trade you're looking at, and you're using God Complex to confirm your own ideas, great, you can do that. But that's just not how I'm going to do it. So I put the minimum trades to about 30. Now we can see these are a little bit more tested, still very high win rates. In this, you can see asset, tier, the setup, so these are the opposite trades. It shows the indicator does not win all the time. If anything, it doesn't win as often as it loses. So we can benefit from that by playing the opposite trade. 10-minute time frame, 30 trades, 90% win rate. Average P&Ls, average pips points, win, loss, profit factor. Notes are going to be quite descriptive and possibly confusing. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter too much for the user to understand what the notes are saying. It's more for the data collection and things I do on the back end. But for this one specifically, Silver USD, when there's an opposite direction, high time frame trade, 1440 minutes, I believe is 12-hour or 1 day with gold. So when gold's in a 12-hour or 1 day long, then silver fails often, and we play this rev short opposite. I know that's quite confusing, but as I said, it's not as important to know. Just follow verified live signals. It's doing all the hard work for us. If we go a little higher to 50 trades, as you see, there's not as much data for 50 trades. We have maybe 30 over 50 trades. The system was created about 3-4 months ago. This tracks data live. It does not backtest. So every trade that it's tracked has to come in since the system was created and data started being collected. So we are still in the early stages. That's the power of this system, is in the long term. If in 3 to 4 months there's setups with very high win rates at 50 trades, which 75-80% is incredible, in another 4 months or year or however long it is that this is running, it'll keep finding the best setups and it'll throw it to verified live signals, and we can play trades with very high win rates that have been tested thoroughly. And that's the goal of this system. Now the most important part is order flow. This is the brand new update. So the order flow signals tab. As you see right now, like I said, the market's closed for Forex commodities futures indices. So crypto is the only one showing. In the top here, you can select the assets. We're just only going to select crypto for now since it's the only ones running. And we'll clean up this table a little bit. Select the time frames you want to see. So as you see here, we have the different symbols and assets that are tracked, the different time frames, on the x-axis, and the units here, which are color-coded and word-coded. Updates like that, as you just saw, happen every 5 minutes. So signals come in every 5 minutes. It'll update the table, update the signals down here, and recalculate based on each individual signal, order flow signal that comes in, and calculates it into a bullish or bearish stamp based on a back-end calculation of everything put together, how old the signal is, how long it's been around, the score, and a bunch of other information you can see in the order flow signals guide. For Bitcoin here specifically, it says 1 and then in parentheses 1-0 bullish. The first one is the total number of signals that have occurred in the recent time for the 5 minute for Bitcoin. So one total signal has happened, and then this is bullish to bearish. So one bullish signal, 0 bearish signals combined equals bullish. See here, one total signal, 0 bullish, 1 bearish equals bearish. Same for these. The overall 6 total signals, 2 are bullish, 4 are bearish, that equals bearish. Mixed is going to be when there's not enough leaning in one direction or the other. So 7 total signals, 4 bullish, 3 bearish, mixed. A very bullish signal now for Solana. I explained how all these work. 16 total, 13 bullish, 3 bearish, labeled as very bullish. If you hover over it, it shows some information. It's not the most important, it's kind of just explaining what's happening here. The max score 14.21. Score of these order flow signals is determined by the statistical relevance of the individual signal itself. For example, if we go down here, bearish absorption wick with a score of negative 1.87. The higher the number, the more absorption there was. So in this case, bearish absorption wick is a high positive delta or a high amount of market buys in the wick of the candle, and then it closes below all those market buys, creating a bearish absorption wick. So 1.87 is the relative amount of market buys that are trapped in that wick, where you see this Ripple one with a score of negative 5.5 compared to 1.87, it'll show relative to the look back period on Ripple, it's got a significantly high statistical amount of bearish absorption. So this wick probably has significant amount of market buys in it that were trapped and closed below. So that's the max score. Then you have the badge, very bullish, we discussed. Bull and bear is going to be the score of each side. So bullish W is 10, bear W 1.2. That's why that goes into the calculation for why this is very bullish. You have the bull and bear count and the total count. That's the overall how you're going to use the heat map. And that's what goes into these verified live signals order flow badges. As you see now, in this trade we wouldn't take, the order flow is bullish. So if you were in this trade, once this flipped, you'd be paying attention to the order flow tab, paying attention to that badge on here, and you would determine when to get out, if you want to get out sooner, things like that. There is one disparity between the badge and the tab. The badge is going to be calculated more based on the trade's time frame. This 4-minute trade is going to take into account more of the signals that happen much closer to the time of the trade and the time frame of the trade. So if you're in a trade, pay attention to the badge on the card, as it can be more important. This is going to be for the overall understanding of what's happening. So if you're in a 1-minute trade, a 60-minute signal from an hour ago is not going to be as important as a 5-minute signal that happened recently. So this is for overall understanding and bias. This is going to be more specific to your trade, but you should use both because it's still important. The order flow signals here, you can select what you want to see. So we'll look at this Ethereum. Now, once a signal has been around for too long, it's thrown out relative to the time frame of the signal. A 5-minute order flow signal will last about 15 minutes until it's not as relevant anymore. A 60-minute can last around an hour and a half to 2 hours after the signal occurred, and then it becomes irrelevant in relation to when the signal occurred. Each of these different signals that the system outputs can be learned and figured out in the order flow signals guide. We're also in the process of developing an extremely thorough order flow education that will be completely free, but it will explain each of these in depth for if you do want to do your own order flow analysis, volume footprint charts, and you can use this at the same time or not use it at all, but we're still going to give that information out. Order flow is extremely important. So overall, that's how the God Complex dashboard works and how you should and definitely pay attention to the order flow signals with it. As you saw, this was a trade I didn't want to take. We'll check this Ripple. So this rev long fired, but at the time order flow was mixed, I believe. It did work out, but again, I'm trying to play the best of the best. I want statistics, order flow, and sometimes trend on my side. This up here is from the God Complex analysis table. It's an optional add-on. I obviously like to have it, mainly just for the high time frame, multi-time frame bias to understand the trend rather than having to look at it myself. It's not all just trend, it's also calculated with trend strength and reversal risk. So even though the trend is clearly up here, the 30-minute trend is clearly up, but the bias is not up because there's a risk of reversal. So it's calculating all of that. I think it's extremely important, very nice to have. It does do a lot more, but I think a lot of this is not going to be needed for most people. But if you really want to get deep into how the indicator works, when signals are going to fire, why they fire, and everything that goes into creating the signal, you can get the optional analysis table. So as you see here, we'll make it larger for this. There's a lot of information here explaining what's happening with the trade. If you've read the mastery guide, you know how each of these signals and take profits is calculated. It uses each and every indicator we have created, scores them, and determines when each one is active to determine when a trade can fire. I won't go too far into how each signal is created because you can read that in the mastery guide. But if you have questions, you can always ask me. Because I understand what's happening, I don't use this information as much, but the MTF scores and the high time frame bias, I believe, is extremely important, and I like to keep that on all my charts at all times. Like I said, I also keep the volatility-based SMI on my charts at all times because it is a core indicator on exits and entries for a God complex. If there are any questions, it's a lot of information. I respond really fast to emails or the chat. You just let me know. God complex isn't the most simple, straightforward buy now, sell now system. There aren't many systems like that. Automated trades are good, but trusting a system to do the work for you isn't always the best. Being in control, using data, statistics, your own analysis, order flow, sticking to the rules, risk management, using a stop loss. There's a reason why some people are very successful at trading and it takes a very long time, and other people aren't. There is the whole psychology to it. You need to be able to create a plan, stick to that plan, don't let your emotions take over. I believe we've gone through everything now for the God complex dashboard and the new order flow signals. Let's take a look at this while we're here. That's going to be it for how to use the dashboard, but let's see how this looks here. So Solana's just fired off a 3-minute and 4-minute long. Both very good, God tier. Order flow very bullish. So the thing with trading is anything can happen at any time. And this is where other analysis comes in too, because although we have great level of win rate and order flow, I do my own analysis to determine high time frame confluent levels of support and resistance. That's what this blue box is. And it's the fact that we're getting there. This probably wouldn't be a trade I would love to take. If I do, I will reduce my risk. We have statistics, we have order flow, but we're in a very important level here. So again, it's going to be up to the user. You'll see Solana extremely bullish on order flow. We can take a look at the individual signals that are building that. All calculated and heat mapped into very bullish. This specific one, suggested stop, 242.43. Around there, target there. You have to decide for yourself based on your other analysis whether it's Elliott wave, support and resistance, diagonals, moving averages, if a trade is right for you. Of course, taking this every time has won, but again, with an opposite trade and using a suggested stop, you never really know where it's going to go. If you were to have played this trade every single time, yes, it has been profitable. 5.8 profit factor is really good, 81% win rate. But it doesn't mean you can just take all these trades blindly. You still want to use some of your own analysis, some of your own information, and determine if it's the trade for you. It's better to stay out of a trade than be in a wrong one. So wait for the best of the best. To me, being that this is in such a crucial high time frame level, it's not really the best of the best for me. So not a trade I'd like to take. If you do want to know how I determine these levels, it's something we can discuss. This is going to look a little ridiculous, but this is how I find my high time frame levels. with volume profile, time price opportunity, high time frame levels, liquidity levels, single prints. I map it all out and look for areas where there's confluence. This level, for example, has quite a lot of stuff going on here, so I mark it out, put an alert. As much as the data and statistics and order flow say it should keep going higher, I have no reason to risk in something that has so much confluence for resistance. So I stay out of that. So if you have any questions, need any assistance, you can contact me anytime. But that's a nice thorough walkthrough of the God Complex dashboard and order flow signals. Take care.